process of mobilization towards the referendum, as you rightly said, the aim of the organization right now, at the moment, is to mobilize the people. You're mobilizing the people towards the referendum of the people. And how soon is the referendum? What is the target audience of this referendum, and what is the process, please?
On Friday, led by myself, and we had an invitation of some group at the Congress in the U.S. Going to tell them, in private, more or less, what the issues were, because some of them didn't quite understand it in the manner we had presented it. And from there, we went to New York, where we also had private sessions with some of those who will be involved in all of what has to be done. I'm a lawyer of many years, 24 years, and I have some I have some specialty in the area of law we call jurisprudence. Now, before 2007, I want all the listeners to get this very clearly because of the confusion that those who are opposed to what we are doing are throwing all over the place. Because of the instruments that came in 2007, of which we are proudly able to proclaim that we were part of how it came when Kofi Annan was the Secretary General. That United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which established this right to self-determination. Because before then, it had to be on a case-by-case basis that you will have to go to convince the UN that your problems have become so much that you needed to live where you were. But the UN looked back and saw that all the wars they have had to go to intervene in. This point is important to understand. Whether it's the First World War, or the Second World War, or the one in Congo, or the one in Darfur, or the one in Biafra, all the wars, Burundi, and even the one that's going on in the Middle East now, it has been one ethnic domination or the other. Either the Nazi will proclaim that they are superior to others, or the Fulani will proclaim they are superior to others, or the Hutus against the Tutsi. Therefore, the basis of that instrument that came in 2007 at the UN was to create a situation in which, if you were in your ancestral space, you were entitled to be there by yourself. And therefore, if your neighbor wants to form a larger union with you, that neighbor has to convince you. If you are not convinced, that neighbor has to dress back from you. From the 13th of September 2007, that instrument has replaced what you used to call secession. It is now called right to self-determination. And therefore, you were not going to have to convince the UN that 5 million people have been beheaded before they select the first meeting to begin to decide. It is for you to enact, to ignite the process and get it to where there is a definite map of a bloc that wants to live. And therefore, the peoples on that map agreeing in a referendum, because it is by referendum that you're able to show that the majority wants out. And what we're doing right now didn't start overnight. We've been in this process. I'm sure most of you heard about Pronaco. Far back 2004, 2005, we had to call a meeting of the whole country to place on the table what they had rejected in Aburi, which was a matter of regional autonomy. The level of regional autonomy on which Nigeria being one country was premised originally. It was because we wanted to be sure that we are not isolated that we went that long road to get the rest of Nigeria to accept that it is that level of regional autonomy that will keep all of us in the union. When we finished with that, we took it through an informal referendum in which the ethnic nationalities all stood up, including those who were carrying arms. The asserted occupants of this world, the people who later became men, the OPC of the Southwest, it was sold to them that it was regional autonomy or they leave the union. In 2007, when I still have your question in mind as to the date, as to when the referendum can be. In 2007, in an attempt to incapacitate the Nigerian state, we went to court to shoot down the 1999 Constitution. What was our case? that the soldiers imposed a constitution which they call the 1999 Constitution, which was made by decree, and then lined in the preamble that we, the people, having agreed amongst ourselves, made that constitution. As simple as it looked, it was the signature that gave life to the document. And from that date in 2007, May 23rd, that we went to court, that document had lost life. Because nobody can take 1 square inch of Nigeria except Nigeria is unable to stop that person. Ogoni said it, you saw the result. Biafra was forced into it, you saw the outcome. Ijo went alone, you saw the outcome. So unless you found a way to put that monster that is occupying the space to death, nobody is going to be able to take 1 square inch away. And that was why we invested the first 11 years, to make sure that that monster is made incapable of responding to what will come. You remember in 2005, when the American intelligence picked up something to say that from what they were seeing, that by 2015, Nigeria could be history. It wasn't because they were conjecturing, it was because they stumbled across a well-articulated plan that had layers and layers of engagement. We are in that year, and every single thing in that plan had been implemented. The only thing remaining now is for our people to be told, those who will vote at the referendum, you guys are in Europe and elsewhere, the ones at home don't go to the internet. They are too poor to buy newspapers. Nigeria made it impossible for even the progressive TV stations to be in the place. They only watch the NTA, where the government tells them all kinds of stories. And then they begin to watch Man U and Arsenal. So we have a terrible problem there in being able to reach to them. The second thing is that the local media, controlled by people from outside our territory, all work together to prevent this information from getting to our people. Therefore, we either have to buy newspaper space, which is $500,000 per page, or we find something else that will cost a lot of money to do. The person speaking with you now had to go to Onitsha to address that rowdy Ochanja market in September 2012. That market was shut down because there was no other way to reach them. We've done the same in Ariada. We've done the same in Ogbete. We've done the same all across our Sabawari, everywhere. But how many people can you meet? We therefore begin to print flyers. So the task now, before all of us, in terms of date, if we can beat our chest, in the next 3 months to say that we have informed our people about this, because the few who have managed to inform by the processes we have undertaken are all very enthusiastic. And this election has shown what we are trying to show them all the years, that the rest of the country is in conspiratorial alliance against the East, and that they are always prepared to deploy violence. So their eyes are open now. You cannot go as far as asking them to vote when the politicians who join the rest of Nigeria to share 600 billion every month, including the ones who are governors in the East and senators in the East and contractors in the East. They are the ones who have the money to go and lie to the people. They have all the media at their disposal. So the task we have, which if we perform it in 6 months, we will go to that referendum in 6 months. If we perform it in 2 weeks, we go to that referendum in 2 weeks, is to inform our people to the point where we can beat ourselves to say they've been informed. I'm sure most of the listeners cannot answer yet if we ask them whether the people in their villages know about this matter. We have gone everywhere in search of how to inform them. You print flyers, they don't even read. Then the events of the recent months and weeks have brought the matter to where people are now going house to house in those places. The internet is there. We are trying to get them to open and see what we have a website. We have all the information lying there. That our people are too traumatized by poverty.
Mr. Tony, I just want to quickly ask you. Thanks for that explanation, anyway. But I just want to quickly ask you, do you see this transforming into some sort of
political organization? Because I rightly said, according to your words, the governors and the sitting politicians in the region at the moment, the lands of Biafra and the older lower Niger areas, are currently a bunch of people who you describe as criminals, as we can see. Do we see this transforming into a political organization in order to take back the lands in the case of the failure to the referendum, just in case.
Ruled out, except we don't get to referendum at all. That I can guarantee you. The model we have in sight is the ANC in South Africa. You remember that apartheid was imposed in 1910. ANC was formed in 1912. ANC did not contest any election. ANC was just there enlightening their people about what the problem was. Initially, they were a minority. But later, when people like Zulu, Oliver Tambo, and Nelson Mandela joined, it became a more formidable movement. And all of the other people who were protesting apartheid in bigger parts of the large expanse of land you call South Africa at the time, everybody saw that there was now a process that could culminate in the collapse of apartheid constitution, and they collapsed themselves into African National Congress, whether they were in Pretoria, or they were in Johannesburg, or they were in Durban, or they were in Cape Town, everywhere they were. Everybody was protesting what the whites were doing in their land without having the larger picture of knowing that it was apartheid constitution that was the monster. Of course, you saw Buthelezi and some of the other people who were, you remember the Bantustan policy, in which some of them felt, well, let us gradually look for how to get education, gradually look for how to get housing. It would have taken them 500 years. But somebody, because there was knowledge of law available, Oliver Tambo was a lawyer, Nelson Mandela was a lawyer, and they pointed out to their people that it was the apartheid constitution that needed to be hacked down. It took a lot of time, but when they had sufficiently informed their people, the government could not function with the apartheid constitution anymore, which compelled Frederick de Klerk in 1990 to proclaim that the society could no longer function on the basis of that, and called a meeting, the CODESA, that lasted 5 years. In all of these years, ANC gradually transformed itself, from whatever it was at the beginning into a political movement. And it was only when there was a replacement by discussion of the apartheid constitution that they contested the first election in 1994, which Nelson Mandela then won. So that is the path we are towing. Lower Niger Congress is a political movement that is pursuing the liberation of that territory. I'm sure you've seen the map of the place, which is the first requirement at the UN. The only other thing is a mandate which we are close to getting, to say that yes, peoples of those territories are together in making this demand. And the only other thing that will be left from the point that mandate is supplied is a referendum in which everybody will vote. So that's where we are. Lower Niger Congress definitely will stay the course until the territory is liberated. Of course, there will be other people who will want to jump into the finish line of the long race. We've been at it for 17 years. Then we had to disguise in name and in approach first to make it impossible for the kind of thing that happened in 1967 to happen, where the rest of the country could successfully mobilize against the enclave. So what we have done now is to destroy that capacity. And that is what brought about the movement for New Nigeria, in which there are people in Yoruba land who are now championing the cause of liberation for their own people. There are people in the Middle Belt championing the cause of liberation for their own people, because their land has been occupied for almost 200 years, even before the British got here, by the Fulani. So armed with all those, alliances, we now bring back the Niger Delta and the Igbo that have been brothers from the beginning. It was not for nothing that AUSA won the first election that would have been the first premier of Eastern region. What was the nature of our relationship at that time? Was AUSA Igbo? No. So we have dug into the history. We saw where Azikiwe was the one who offended the Niger Delta the first. Awolowo dislodged him from Western region. He went to the east to dislodge AUSA. 10 years after, trouble came. And some of them felt it was easy for the enemy to convince them that these people are no good. And that was what led to the position they took. But while some of them were doing that, we remember Philip Etienne. He fought from the first day to the last day. And from any side you entered the Biafra of the time, it was the minority you were going to encounter. So if you were in their shoes, what would you have done? We have looked at all of these things, and we have found a younger generation of the Niger Delta who sat down to see with us that nobody, worked against them. It was just a matter of practical situation in which the enemy had to enter the territory. We have put all of that behind us.
Mr. Tony, speaking about the referendum, those who were listening to your voice, because you're speaking right now, the people of Biafra are listening to your voice
all over the world. In a matter of days, we'll be remembering those brave Biafrans who died fighting for this region, from the Delta to the Igbo land to the rest of the areas of the territory. Speaking of those referendum, in terms of age of voting particularly, what are the target age of voting in terms of days regarding to the self-determination of the people of the Old Eastern region and the people of Biafra, as you rightly know?
I will answer that question, but before I go into it, please permit me. There's the biggest setback we have right now. The reason why we've not gone beyond where we are right now is this word, Biafra. All the efforts that have been made so far, for every 10 persons you want to address, it's so easy to sit in one corner of Netherlands and tie around your waist the Biafran flag and chant Biafra from one end of Holland to the other. But if you were to come to sit in Aba, if 10 people set out, 8 will be shot before they come back. Because Nigeria is in physical occupation. Now, we have something, people do not understand your Biafra. They think it is trouble. They think it is death. The Niger Delta is frightened about the war. For me, and for us in Lower Niger Congress, there are two tasks here. Put the monster to death, free the land for everybody. You now name yourself what you want to call yourself the day after. But if you spend all your energy just fighting about the name and not being able to convince the people who should be coming along with you, you have set yourself in total commotion. And that's what we are suffering on ground here. In fact, so bad is the situation that all of those who are chanting one Biafran thing or the other are actually bigger setback to us than the enemy we're trying to fight. Because they have sat in their corners and, sharing the promised land, sitting in Egypt. That's what they are doing. That's why we've not moved beyond where we are. Back to the question of the parameters of referendum. Anybody who will be old enough to carry gun, anybody who will be old enough to carry a gun, if things come to fighting today, will be old enough to be part of that vote.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my brother, I don't know if anybody has any other thing to say. Any question? We still hope that maybe people from around the world, our brothers, if there's anybody who wishes to come online. Right now, I see that I cannot take calls from my own Skype because I'm engaged with you. There are people who needed to. I don't know if there are people around their own corner who would like to ask one or two other questions, or from you people all in the studio there.
Obviously, there are quite a number of questions that have been popping up, obviously, especially from the forum in here. There have been questions popping up. But before I actually go in and be able to kind of read out the question to Mr. Tony Nadi, because we have to kind of bring this question to nearly close to end so we can open up the lines to those questions, so he'll be able to kind of address them outrightly. Mr. Tony, I would love to ask you, as a Lower Niger Congress, if you do have the opportunity of reaching the audience and explaining to the audience what the big problem is in the very late time, to those who are listening this evening, or possibly via the shortwave or via the FM radio, those who are listening to your voice this very evening, he pointed out right that there's more enemy within than outside from the region. But could you please expatiate on what you mean by much more problem from within?
Spain so far have been driven more by sentiment than logical, than reason and structured engagement. What do I mean? For you to embark on any journey, you must have a clear destination in mind. You must have a route map from where you are standing, how to go to that destination you have identified. You must then have a vehicle that will go through that route to get to that destination. If any of these three is missing, you are not going to succeed in getting to any destination at all. The first thing we did when we were putting these things together was identify all of those who are, raising one alarm or the other about the situation of our people, starting with myself. In fact, the treason trial of both Asari Dokubo and Wazirike collapsed on the head of Nigeria because of the suit we filed in 2007 challenging the legitimacy of the Constitution, because I, as counsel, who filed that suit on behalf of several other plaintiffs, including Ojukwu himself, Enohoro, Shoyinka, I did include Asari Dokubo and Wazirike to see whether Nigeria will find an answer to the charge that the Constitution, which is their sole title document by which they occupied the territory, was a forgery. That was what we placed before the court, that Absalom Abaka, the then head of state, made a decree number 24 by which the Constitution was imposed, and then lied in the preamble other than the document. Having told the story inside the document himself, he told step by step how he came about the Constitution. He said he formed a committee that went round and came back to him and reported, and therefore he added and subtracted and called it 1999. The story is still printed in the Constitution of your Federal Republic as I speak. And then he comes 4 or 5 pages down the book to say that we, the people, having agreed among ourselves, it was that going to court in 2007 was to test whether Nigeria will find an answer for that charge of saying that the sole instrument in their hand is a forgery and therefore a fraud that could not be basis of occupying the territory or selling 3 million barrels of crude oil every day. Nigeria did not find an answer, and that was what collapsed the treason trial of those 2 gentlemen. I was privileged to be fully involved, and I signed court documents that brought them to freedom. When they brought Henry Oka from Angola, they couldn't take him to court in Nigeria because we were waiting for them to say, if anybody brings anybody to court from any part of Nigeria on account of any resistance being offered Nigeria for occupying the territory with a forged instrument, that we will be in court to wait for such treason. And when they couldn't go any further, they had to let Henry Oka go. And then they got South Africa to try to help them to hold him at bay. Again, I had to travel to court to South Africa and I addressed the court and the people of South Africa standing in courtroom, facing the judge, and telling South Africa the story of their own history. It was covered live. CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, 53 cameras covered that presentation live. And as I speak with you, the Supreme Court of South Africa has called up that case on account of what they heard in court that day. And that matter is being reviewed. The matter of the propriety of the trial is up for discussion, and I can assure you that in the coming days, that trial will not only be quashed, it will be expunged from the records of record books of South Africa that it ever took place. Where am I going with all of this? All of those who were doing those things, I started with the Wazirike, then I went to Asari to explain to them that we had to do what we call a structured engagement in the matter. Since there's a UN instrument, we have to condition the struggle to fit into that instrument so that it can end in a referendum. There are those who believe that, oh, let's go and get guns. For every one rifle you're able to bring, maybe Nigeria will have 1,000 to offer. Russia will be willing to give them some more like they're giving to Assad in Syria. That was what happened in 1967. But if you take the matter to a plain process in which a referendum takes place with a map that is not in dispute, and in which both the judges, security, Ogoni, all of those in the territory are working together, you are likely to get to where it is not possible for anybody to stop you. What did I find? They were all in each of the organizations. I met 42 different organizations. And it has come to where we have to be calling names. I'm calling their names as I speak because including the last of the one they say they are doing, the African indigenous, the one, Dozeke France and other criminals are abandoning themselves all over the place. These are people who have gone to meet in their private to say, this is what we need to do. But they are more interested in sharing the promised land sitting in Egypt. They have marked out that entire territory for who will govern it. They forget that you have to get to the promised land before you begin to partition it to those who are going to rule over it. And the question I asked each of them, including Onwuka, the one that was doing the Zionist movement, name them, and Nekotenko. Everywhere I found any activity, any effort, I approached them. And when I say I'm talking of Lower Niger Congress. But I use the phrase I because I personally, because in this kind of a matter, you don't rely on what other people did just because they said they did. I'm speaking like one in an affidavit now because I was the one who discussed with them all through to say, everybody wants freedom. Where is the map of the place you want free? Because it's actually a land dispute, territory. The first thing you have is a map. Many of them do not have any map to place on the table. If you sit in one corner of Aba or Enugu, to draw a map that includes Ogoni and Niger and other places, without talking to the people on ground, again you are back to where you were in 1966. And if that map you are making does not include any of those, the Igbo that are now in Rivers or Delta and Baeza or Edo, what are you going to do with them if you work with the state Nigeria has created? So in all of this, not one of them has a map that can stand the test of scrutiny, especially at the UN. Not one. I can authenticate that because I went into where their books were in every part. The second thing, Nigeria is physically occupying the place. What are you going to do, or by what mechanism are you going to dislodge them? Is it by chanting Biafra 1 million times a day? Where's the roadmap? We had a roadmap on the table, of which we have done 70% before we started, calling them in to say, this is what has been done. These are the rules. These are the conditions. This is the history that is not known to you. We broke into the British archives to bring out documents that the Britain was hiding from us. And we placed all these things on the table to say, with a combination of these raw facts and the law and the logic, the sentiment of the people is the last you need to bring in. They leave all of these important things and they're building on the sentiments of the people alone, making broadcasts. The Nnamdi Kanu that is now talking nonsense on ground at home. He was broadcasting in London. I took time like I'm taking out our time now to speak at the radio. There was one maker of whatever they say is lawyer, I don't know where he trained, that came on air to try to create the impression that he was a better lawyer because he was based in England. To tell the people that I went to court in Nigeria, Nigeria's court, I'm waiting on the court to give me relief. Whereas the strategic objective of taking that constitution before the court was to bring it to death and tying the hands of Nigeria from being able to prosecute anybody for treason. For people who are on ground here, anybody can be in one far place and running his mouth The day we ask them to come here to say the same thing they're saying, that they will not come. And they see they're creating problems all over the place. So we went round, and it was just because none of them had any map, none of them had a process that you could say we are in point A today, we are going to point Z. Through A, B, C, D, we can come to point Z in 2-3 years. None of them. It's propaganda and propaganda and more propaganda. Oh, Israel will come and beat Nigeria up. Oh, America will come and carry Nigeria down. That's all you see. And they kept collecting money from people and buying houses for themselves, living off the blood of the people. We decided not to quarrel with any one of them. We said, let us keep doing what we are doing. What we have to do is in black and white. And I'm sure some of you have read some of them. The process is on the streets of Nigeria, engaging the government, bringing the constitution to a halt, and leading steadily to where the vote will be taken. At the end of the day, the vehicle, once you have any organization that has the name Biafra as part of it, you have already lost 90% of the people you want to talk to. They are not listening. They are not going to listen. The modicum of interest that is being generated around the matter right now is flowing from what we are doing. Anybody may dispute it. Anybody may argue with himself. But if we are not firing at the heart of Nigeria, if we are not making sense on the global stage, it is not these chantings that will have brought the matter to where it is now. Jonathan became president, and we practically compelled him, after he had rejected it before, we compelled him to call a meeting of the one that happened in Abuja. And we used that meeting to demonstrate to everybody that these people were not willing to discuss. And that became the last thing we needed in order to launch the last phase of the project. Luckily for us, the elections came. And the way and manner they went about it became proof for what we were alleging. So all these organizations, and if there's any one of them you know, if you call the name now, I will tell you who we dealt with and the point at which we did away with them. To say that you don't have a plan that can be placed on the table for all to follow. If anybody has a better plan that can deliver freedom for our people, place it on the table and it's better than the one we have, we will abandon the one we have and go with that one. None of them has any plan that can be pursued by all. Leave what you are doing, become Lower Niger Congress where you are, so that we can become like ANC that you could no longer suppress because of their size. No. I hear there are about 3,000 Biafra organizations in Europe alone. You can then imagine what's going on at home. Everybody in his own bedroom. If you have to deal with a bunch of brooms, imagine if the individual broomsticks come to try to rescue. You break them one after the other. But if you have a bunch of brooms that is tied together, no matter how much you try, bend it forth, bend it back, not one will break. That's what our people refuse to understand all these years.
Thank you
and
very
there's been
much.
such a huge setback, you can't imagine what they have cost us.
Yeah, thank you very much there, Mr. Tony. We are that too will pass over up to our studios again in Spain.
Thanks so much, Imad, for holding on that particular.
The connection is not clear at all. I can't get you fine. I don't know why. But I'll see what I can do.
You're there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we literally come to almost the end of it. I wanted to take this time to say a very great thank you to Mr. Tony for coming on the broadcast tonight, explaining to the audience, to the people of Biafra. You've all heard it. You heard it to the people. You've heard what he has to say. So the choice is now between you on your mind to be able to open up to the people who are listening to the strategies which he's put forward to the people. Obviously now how to free our people from the shackles of the bondage known as Nigeria and what he has to say. And these are all coming from the perspective of the lower Niger, who this evening is our guest on the radio. So with that being said, I do want to say a very great thank you to the Lower Niger Radio, who hosted this program and in collaboration with us. And also, once again, a very great thank you to Mr. Tony Nadi for being the guest. But I don't know if he has any of his last word that he would love to say to the listeners and to the people who actually will be listening to the repeat of the broadcast back home.
Thank you.
Definitely there's an instrument available to give us that freedom today in the UN system, and we've not only worked that instrument, we've gone to see the human beings who will drive it. Those who have access to YouTube can go to Lower Niger Congress with the title Lower Niger Congress at the US Congress. As I speak with you, the pictures that were missing on the YouTube are being uploaded tonight, and those who are saying that those who are thinking that we made it up, they are going to see the pictures when they go back to that YouTube, of what happened in the U.S. Congress. There are also pictures from the UN where we had the privilege of discussing with the current president of the General Assembly, who was sympathetic, and all of what we need to do to get the matter through have been discussed informally, and I can assure you that what we're doing has answered almost 75% of the questions that we need to answer in the place. The only thing remaining right now is for our people to be informed up to the rural places, so that if we ask for the vote, people will be voting on account of what they know, not on account of what they do not know. Because if we do not reach to them and we hurry to say we are taking the vote, and the politicians mislead them, it will look like they rejected freedom. You saw what happened in Scotland. All the while that they were discussing that matter, if you listen to the international media, you did not hear the word independent. It was just break up, collapse, and also negative terms. But when they had wangled their way at the last minute, and the matter was lost by less than 1%, the first announcement of the result was that Scotland has rejected independence. Our people should know, the last word to take away from this conversation this evening, our people should know that they are just a vote away from freedom, a vote away from independence. That the few who know about it right now owe it a duty to tell all the others who do not know, especially the semi-literate and those who are so bogged down by the cares of life that they do not even know anything is going on. It is when we reach to them that we're able to take that vote. If we decide to finish this task in 6 months, we'll finish it in 6 months. If we do not set about it quickly and the enemy regroups, it may take a much longer time.
Thank you very much. And that is
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. So that has been it from our brother there, our uncle, whatever you want to. It's been a wonderful day today with our co-station there in Spain, the Biafran 24. Me, myself here, Wanchuku Emmanuel, I salute you all and say, may God be with you all and help you in all your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matt, for being there and co-hosting the program with us on this very day. Very thank you to the people of Biafra who are listening to the program this very evening. My name is Yagoze, and stay tuned onto the channel as the rest of the program comes up onto the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that has been it with our sister network there. You've seen it. Nadi was here. He just left. And this is Biafran United Corporation, working in collaboration with the Lower Niger News as we are now. So the information has been set out there, and it's for everybody to do that U-turn, just like we did. It's not going to take you anything, but it's going to give you that strength to know that you did what you said you can do, to do all for the freedom of our people. Like all our people, our people, so many people said, I keep saying it, they said they can kill, they can die for Biafra. This is the time to do that turnaround for the best. This, if you will, you call it humiliation on your own part, but you have to do it now for the sake of that Biafra you love, because that Biafra means the freedom of the people. Like you rightly heard there from Nadi himself, it's all about the methodology to go about this. Then when we get there, everything this time is done by majority. We put a hands to vote and talk about what we'll call ourselves. When Biafra is the name, then well. But this time is the time for us to call one another together, to understand the fact and do the right thing. And that's been it from us here in Germany. The Lower Niger News, as we promised, we are also going to repeat this broadcast time and time again, because it's going to be embedded on our website. For those of you who knows it, it's just the buctelevision.de.tl. You go over there, you can always play it 1, 2, 3, 4 times to get. It's just not easy to understand exactly somebody by mere hearing it the first time and the last time, and coming to conclusion of what he meant or what he said. There should be always that time for meditating in matters like this, into people's words. And that comes when you play them 2 times, 3 times, you try to get the facts of what they are talking about. And that is what Lower Niger stands for. We stand to break it down and give you the arrangements to the goal. And when we say Lower Niger, we also mean Biafra. We mean that eastern region. We mean we. Whatever we are is what we are. We are Biafrans. We are Igbos. We are the Easterners. But what is the method of getting our freedom? That is what we are talking about now, and that is what we are doing. So that is just what we should, the way to arrange it, to make it a little bit light for us to carry, to understand that we have so many things that we represent, and all of them are exactly who we are. We are complete Igbos. No matter how people turn it around to say Igbo is a language or whatever, but we are known as the Igbos. We are Biafrans. We are the Easterners when you come to the eastern region of Nigeria. So, it is not about, we could as well answer any of these names because that is who we are. But now is what platform are we going to scare through this journey? Go to Shafu Hebo, Gafere. If heaven says from Igbo, Biafra, Easterners, and all the rest of the names that we bear, that no Biafra Kaiga what last, that is what we are going to be. It's not the question now. It is better people understand what Tony just said, the way he just narrated. I think before he became a little bit nervous, he stretched a lot of points in a way people should understand it. And also, to the point where he revealed the way he went from people to people, meaning these leaders of all these groups, to talk with them. Nobody does that. They don't do that. They don't go. They hate themselves. They despise themselves. They fight against one another. They don't like unity meetings. I've tried it. Everybody also who have known me from the onset knows that I've tried the unity setup. But now it's not about that. It's about agreeing what is right. It's not about unity anymore. It's about collapsing yourself to the right way. It is about the promise you gave of can do anything to free the people. With that name you call it Biafra, it's still that same name we are talking about. It's still the same freedom of the Eastern people. It's still the same freedom of the Igbos and the Ijaws and all these people that are made up of us together. That is what we are saying now. There are reasons, there are causes, there have been a lot of situations that has come to this point, which some of you also will bear the witness of, even the sentiment only attached, even the fraud engaged in this, and the cheating, the lying. They talk this today, talk that tomorrow, go to Nigeria today, come back and say freedom tomorrow. You know, all these things have really downgraded the ability to make the argument with that name. That is how Lower Niger came about. It could be any other thing. It could have been any other thing that have relations to us. And of course, Lower Niger has a relation to us. It's also one of who we are. One of those names that belongs to us. It doesn't mean it's going to be who we are going to call ourselves tomorrow. But first of all, brothers and sisters, the point here is a point to convey the message across to each and every one of us, to know that we are on the edge of freedom. It is possible. It is our agreement. It is our forgiveness towards one another. The word we speak, especially we know so many of them have been annoyed, so many of them have been outraged in so many ways among themselves, looking for this very freedom, and also combined with the ego, combined with the pride that is born in the hearts and the minds of the Igbo men. Everything combines to give us the situation we find ourselves today. But there is a way we can try to free our minds a little bit, knowing that each and every one of us, unless we all freedom, more with the same target of freedom we are talking about. But if it's that same target of freedom we are talking about, that means that is somewhere where we have a similar point of view. There is somewhere where we have very big similarity, and that is the last point, freedom. Then we talk about it. Like what is the way forward? What can we do in the nearest future to get this freedom before a regroup? Regroupment is coming, is on the way, is already in, by Buhari being the president to tomorrow. Now it is time for us to leave jokes apart. It is time for us to leave fraud apart. It is time for us to leave insults apart. It is time for us to start loving one another. First of all, we have to be forgiven towards whatever you have said, whatever Forget about whatever somebody is doing. It's not about trusting somebody now. Who am I going to trust to follow? No. Let's believe in the ideology first. Your trust comes in when you are in and you're in. You work as a man to understand what you are into. But the first thing you have to do is to understand the ideology, the mechanisms by which you want to. Each and every one of the groups saying what mechanisms are they trying to get this to with. Sorry. To get the freedom with. If you agree with that mechanisms, you build up a stage where you penetrate what you're looking for, and then you have to build up the trust. Trust and a building. I say, another man's meat is another man's poison. It's you who can build it to being your meat. If you let loose, it becomes your poison. So the effort you give towards what you want, what is important for you, like you have always been promising, we can kill, we can do this. It's not about, I said to Ego, get to Ego. You have to know what you are paying for, not to come tomorrow to say, now somebody na Ego. There are a lot of people who are shouting about the money they lose or they lost within this movement. Oh, donation 100,000, 200,000 naira, 500,000 naira. It pains you so much because you took that money and paid to somebody to find out that but look at this. I paid flights here and here that it cost more, spend more to go to Nigeria for some just little time, going to Spain. I didn't pay people this because you need to investigate these things. I lost those money, but God acknowledged and exactly what I want before I say I can engage in this. It will not hurt me losing that money, but it's the same amount of money that you lost because you donated it to somebody blindly. It hurts you, and that is what also makes some people get hooked, because where they put their money is where their mind goes. And they're putting this money blindly. The first thing you do in situations like this is to investigate what you want to go into. We all are men. If you don't have the opportunity, if you don't have the time, that is another way. Also, if your work or something doesn't give you the possibility to walk around, or in Europe here paper-wise or something, so many things can deter somebody. Also, we understand that point. But there's every reason to become more smarter and reasonable. Before you throw in money, you must see people. You must engage people. You must talk with people. You must have gone to meetings. Let's take this call, ladies and gentlemen, as we are on the show already. Yeah, my brother, we are here on our studio in Germany for the Lower Niger Radio, and please, our guest is Mr. Chukuma from India. Please, my brother, you can greet our people. And if you have anything, if you've been following the program, I don't know, then you can just make some one or two remarks as we continue. Hello? Can you hear me? It's not hearing me. Okay. Now we continue with the broadcast, although we're about to end the show tonight. You know, our broadcasts are special broadcasts. On a money, away put every day native, away put an go apple. Now I preach story, now I go history. People have left the method of struggle. People have left the method of struggle and are now doing things otherwise. Anyway, this is Biafran Radio before, and now we are Lower Niger News now. So the same revise we did without minding, because we can do anything in as much as it is that freedom. That is why we are proud to be who we are, to do things with the way we do it, and that is why we will never fail. Because in as much as our path to freedom, that freedom for the Biafran people, for the eastern region, for the Ijo, for the whole of the Igbos, Ijo, Urobo, and all these things must come. And we will get there. So we are ending the program tonight. Tomorrow, maybe I'm going to give a promise. We'll try to be here to summarize this very today's program, because that's the way it goes by us here. When we have our program, the next day is always 2 days on steady, where we can have time to summarize the previous program, because they are all very important programs. Not running off mouth or running a program every day without knowing the use of it. So this is Lower Niger News. We are ending this program tonight, and we are happy and grateful to all our audience, and hope that you will always be there. Any day that we put up our advert there, you will be here to listen and to get information up front. Thank you, and God bless.